We're having a problem with mice and potentially rats. You may have not seen them yet, but I wouldn't doubt it if they're here. This is just a loose brick that was in there. I've already cleaned it up a little bit, got rid of some of the old mortar. You can see somebody's put band-aids on this, as they usually do. Okay, due to the fact that this small addition is settled. It's pulling away from the house up top. You can tell by the way that the flashing's pulling away from the brick on the actual back of the house. Okay, so this is a clear shot. I can actually see the rim joist that it's part of the first floor. And you can see it. You can see it from the basement. You can't see it on. You probably can't see it on camera, but I can see it with my naked eye looking in the crack here. That's a big crack. And the only thing that was holding this brick in here was some crumbs of what was left of the mortar. You can see the mortar's falling apart. It's soft. It's old. And there's a few crumbs holding this brick in, and somebody had sprayed this in there to try and stop it instead of pointing it up and using some mortar. Look at this. Now this is what happens when you have gutters that are not cleaned regularly. Okay, so when it rains, what happens is the water just rolls right over the gutter down the back of the house, and it destroys the mortar. And believe it or not, it really doesn't take a lot of time for it to get beat to hell. So there's two spots. There's the old oil fill area. It's kind of falling apart a little bit. I want to get that before it gets any worse. Up underneath this old window well, which was cemented in because at some point this was an abandonminium, and they had to concrete it. This used to be the doorway to the basement. They had to concrete that in to keep people out, turn it into a crack house or shooting gallery. Okay. Now if you look up underneath of the addition here, this is what would normally be a pantry in these places. You can see that there's a pretty big hole there where they ran this line in. Okay, this old conduit. Okay, now on the inside, when I look at this from the basement, it looks solid. I can't see anything, but if you can see just beyond that gray piece of conduit, that's plenty of room for a rodent to slip up and find his way into your walls. Okay, so if you have anything like that, it's something to think about. Okay, also, this addition used to be closed all the way in. You can see that because there's rock wool up in here. See that back there? That's rock wool, old insulation, nasty, probably has asbestos in it. I don't even know what's in there. It could be somebody's stash. I don't know. Not even going to look. Something that stuck under there. Looks like a plastic bag deliberately hidden up in there. Okay, another thing, old outdated phone lines that are doing absolutely no good because there's no landline here. This was up here, so a mouse would have no problem climbing up and getting herself right in that hole there. I know rats could probably climb right up this. I've seen them do that kind of shit. I've watched them climb stuff I had no idea they could climb like they did until I really sat and observed them for a little while. So they can do some pretty amazing climbing and jumping, and really I had no idea they could do the shit they could do, and they're flexible. So things like this, here's another thing to watch out for. Okay, if you're looking at potential rodent infestations and just general upkeep, you know, that's pretty roasted. Okay. Now you go over to here. Here's a big concern. Okay, here's some of the wire mesh that I'm going to be using when I go to fill this in with mortar. I'm actually using a veneer mortar that's not S-type because it needs to flex a little bit. I don't like using S-type because it doesn't give with conditions, you know, hot and cold, humid, dry. It doesn't give any. And if you're using type S on something like this that's going up against wood, it's going to crack and fall apart. And that's also the general consensus for pointing up these old places. You need something that's it's going to have a little bit of flexibility to it. Okay, here's another thing. Okay, this is brick molding. Okay, so whoever installed this door, look at the gap there. You're going to play hell keeping anything out of there. The door wasn't, when it was installed, it wasn't, the brick molding wasn't jammed back to the brick, and usually it's a good idea to back caulk that, or at least put some mortar or something back in there to jam it in to make it tight, you know. That alone is going to cost a fortune in heating. Okay, this old rotten rail here for the porch. Okay, if you look back in there, see that? I'm going to have to take a circ saw and cut this piece out. Get it out of the way so that I can point, you know, I can jam some mesh and some mortar up in there. There's no other way for me to get to it. Okay? Like that. It's nice, huh? Okay, so come over this way and you can see it better. It's more clear as to what's going on here. Okay? Wide open. Wide open. They're not having any problem getting in this house. Mice, rats, no problem. Alright. In the basement there's a small leak, and it's somewhere around here. There's an old fill tube or something that went to the old oil burner, and they filled it with concrete, and it's dripping, a slow drip every time it pours down rain. So I put this up here to try to divert it away a little bit, you know, from the downspout, which is actually hardly taking any water because it's so clogged up, because you have a big tree that has the gutter pretty much completely clogged up because the water just rolls right down it. And then again, you can see here, this is what happens when water rolls down the back of a house. See that? That's no good. Look at the mortar now is pretty much, it's so soft and it's just falling apart. Okay? Another thing that doesn't help any is when you have an abandonmenium next door. Okay? See it? You know, we're not going to talk about that. Definitely hear bumps in the night. You know, it could be taking on water. It could be taking on rats. They could be trying to come in from the other side of the abandonmenium into this place. So anyway, this is the first part of what you have to do. You have to go around. You have to find out what is going on. You have to diagnose the problem. Okay, so I can see right now 1, 2, 3, 4 underneath of the addition here. Okay, 5 and 6 at least. 6 potential points of vulnerability. Oh, 7 if you count that, where mice are getting in. Okay, so one of the things that, like, a pest control guy will do is he'll come in and he'll jam this stuff in all the cracks, okay, that he could find, like this, where the door wasn't installed properly. Okay, that hole right there might even be a dig hole from a rodent, where they've dug, you know, they dug in. This, I just pulled this out of the crack because it's useless. You want to start thinking, when you're thinking rodents, you want to start thinking like weather and nature in general. You want to start thinking gravity. You want to start thinking like how's water infiltrate a house? How's water get into any penetrations? Okay, it's kind of same thing with rodents. Except for they can push. Okay, like they had the same thing, that bronze colored wire jammed down in there. There's some steel wool still down in there. You think from the outside in. Start the protection from the outside. Okay, and then work your way in. You got to get it from the outside first, because what they're going to do is they're going to crawl in the cracks from the outside, and I'll be damned if they're not going to find a way to chew, push, claw, whatever, their way past whatever you're jamming in that hole. Okay, see that gap? Look, see the gap there? All the way around. The door was just installed improperly. Okay, you can literally, if I turn out the light, you can literally see daylight around the tolerances on the door, because the door's so out of, it's not plumb level and square. Okay, so it's a bad door install, which is going to create problems for you anyway. This feels like mortar dust, and well, take a look. What's going on there? It's pretty obvious. Pretty obvious what's going on there, right? So this is where I thought they were running whenever we go to catch one, into this little pantry area, but it's pretty tight. So apparently they were running to the behind the washer that I usually have pushed up here. They run down along this wall, go behind the washer, and they slip out somewhere else. Okay, the only thing that I can see that might is that, but that's pretty small. But you know, maybe a baby mouse can squeeze through that. I don't know. So that's something right there to look at. Okay, and this is the exterior wall right here. There's the door right over here. Okay, this is the original exterior wall that they cut out to put this addition on. See the length of it? I'm trying to give you some scope because I don't have a tape measure on me, but you know, so that's thick. That's the brick wall. That's all that together. That's why it's so wide. Okay, so this is like 101 of how you're going to keep rodents out of your house. Okay, this stuff here is good if it's used right. It's supposed to keep them from clawing it, and they don't like it. They don't like the way it feels, and it is a little sharp. So when they're digging on that, their claws get stuck all in it, and the little pads on their feet get caught up, and they don't like it. So we're gonna add some of this with the